begin, I think I should explain to some readers the difference between the deep web and the dark web. The deep web is a place that is accessible online by the use of special web browsers, such as Tor, that contains less than legal things, such as drugs, human trafficking, and hitmen for hire. The dark web is pretty much everything that is no longer available by conventional means, such as military websites and other websites that have not been incorporated into the current internet architecture. With that in mind, I'd like to convey to you all my story, my accidental journey into the unknown space known as the dark web. I'm a computer technician by profession. I work for a company that is contracted by local businesses and private consumers to set up internet connections, install software, and repair any sort of computer problems they can come up with. So naturally, I get all kinds of crazy stories and problems that these people can come up with. I swear some of these people just don't know how to work on a computer, even in this day and age. Anyway, one day I get a call from a local business complaining that their internet is acting up and they must have a virus. So I shake my head, thinking that someone must have unplugged a network cable or downloaded a Trojan horse accidentally. I get up and drive over to the business to address the problem. As soon as I arrive, the man who called me immediately spots me and starts going on about hackers and how much he hates Microsoft Windows and how many viruses it creates and all that nonsense they usually receive when addressing business problems. He leads me to his computer and I pull out my laptop and sit down in front of it and begin work. He tells me, "Good luck," and walks away to do whatever he does in his downtime. I open up the browser he uses, i.e. no surprises, and it opens up to about blank. Doesn't even give a home page, so I try connecting to google.com. 404 error. Alright, well I know that google.com definitely exists, so there's a problem in his internet connection. I open his network sharing center to see if I can use the built-in troubleshooter to diagnose the problem. But I give myself a well-deserved facepalm when I see that it isn't connected to any network at all. So I search for networks to find a few wireless connections for him to connect to. They're all WEP encrypted, and I'm almost positive that he doesn't know the key. So I break out my laptop and run a WEP cracking tool to get his computer up and running again. As I'm waiting for my tool to find the WEP key, another network suddenly shows up on my computer. This one's unprotected and has an SSID consisting of random hexadecimal string. Now I'm extremely bored waiting for this guy to return, so I decide to connect to it and take a little look around and see where it's coming from. I connect without problems and open up my toolkit of cracking tools to see if I can find a source for this connection. As I'm having my fun, hacking away at this unprotected network, my computer freezes up. Albeit only for a second or two, but this doesn't happen much, and it caught me by surprise. I shrugged it off as the poor internet speed here kept going on. A couple of minutes later, however, it happened again. A few minutes after that, once again, each time getting longer and longer. Weird, I thought to myself. What's with this network? It was then that things started getting really interesting. After the long string of pauses, my screen flickered a little bit and out of nowhere my browser opened by itself. Now I was worried that I had somehow infected my computer with some kind of malware by connecting to his network. I proceeded to close the browser and began to disconnect from the network before anything worse would happen. But I couldn't disconnect. No matter how many times I clicked the little disconnect button, my computer didn't respond. My browser opened again, this time with a little chat box opened. Hello. I stared at the screen for a couple of seconds, not quite knowing what was going on. I want to talk to you. Now I heard about these AI programs that have all these program responses to simulate conversations with people, and I was not impressed. This was one nasty virus. You need to leave this network now. This is your last warning. Maybe an automated security program designed to keep hackers out. I'll have to admit, I was impressed with it. I'd never seen anything like this before. I'm telling you this one last time. Leave now. I don't know what made me do it, but I responded to the program. Or what? The next response scared me more than anything this world ever has. The program began listing information about me. My name, address, telephone number, credit card information, my parents' names, their addresses. My heart sank in my chest, and all the color immediately left my face. I couldn't move. I just sat there, paralyzed with fear. But what came next was even worse. Don't look at me like that. My webcam was on. You really shouldn't stare. H3man 4694. You might see something you regret. Suddenly, the most horrifying images you could ever imagine flashed on my screen. Images of disemboweled humans, sacrificed, detached limbs, cannibals eating people, video clips of mass suicides, and firing lines. My heart was racing, my body was shaking in utter fear of the images I was being shown. They're seared in my brain. These things that no one should ever see. I mustered the strength I had left to hit the power button on my computer and slammed it shut. I ran to the bathroom and threw up a couple of times. I was drenched in sweat. I could barely compose myself. It took about 20 minutes to go back to my computer, and even then I had a hard time getting near it. I looked over at my client's computer, and it was connected to the wireless network I was cracking earlier. It was working fine now. Just then, my client returned and thanked me for fixing his internet. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my laptop and left. Going down the elevator with my laptop under my shoulder was terrible. I just wanted to leave this place and get my laptop replaced as soon as I could. 5th floor, 4th floor, come on, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, come on, gosh dang it. Ping! Ground floor, open up, come on. And the doors just opened. From behind me, a whisper. You really shouldn't stare. H3man 4694. Part 2. Since people have been asking me to continue relaying my experiences about the dark web, I will reluctantly tell you about the traumatizing several days following my experience in that office building. After I had left the office building and drove back to my office, I promptly gave my laptop to the boss, telling him that it had become non-functional and that I required a replacement. I told him that someone had accidentally spilled coffee on it during my last trip and that it short-circuited. In reality, I made a pit stop on my way back to the hardware store and bought the most powerful magnet I could find and ran over the hard drive several times. I wasn't risking that sort of thing ever turning on again. So, after a short minute of the better keep track of your stuff speech, he took the laptop and told me that I would get my replacement tomorrow. It was probably the most satisfying thing I could ever hear. For a few days, everything was back to normal. No more AI chat boxes, no more funky, unprotected internet connections, no more disturbing images popping up on my screen. I was safe until the nightmares started. I remember the very first one I had very vividly, and I shudder when I think about it, but I'll tell you nevertheless. It began with me walking through a large city. I remember seeing large buildings and people walking up and down the streets on their way to work or shopping, whatever it is city people do. As I was walking, I found myself in front of a very large building, much taller than the rest, and for some reason I wanted to go inside and take a look, so I walked through the front doors and took a look around. It was a fairly normal office building, people moving about, talking on their cell phones and whatnot, minding their own business. I realized that there wasn't much to see here, so I turned around to leave, but something was wrong. The doors to the building were gone. I walked forward thinking that they were some new type of door that was blended into the wall or something, but nothing was there. I found myself very confused, so I turned back around again to maybe ask the receptionist where the exit was, but she was gone too. Everyone was gone. The lobby was empty. No sounds, no people, no furniture, just an empty white room. Now I was scared. I began to panic and pace around the room, looking for a way out, but there was nothing, nowhere to go. So I began to run at the walls, trying to break them down, but all my attempts were futile. After about 4 or 5 bum rushes against the walls, I sat down, out of breath, looking down at the floor. It felt like I was there for hours, just staring at the ground, when suddenly I heard a small whisper. I looked up to see the silhouette, a black silhouette of a man, facing me. He stuck out his hand and whispered ever so slightly, "Trying to leave." For some reason, I trusted this figure. Don't ask me why, dream logic, I guess. But I felt like the figure was going to show me the way out somehow. So I took his hand and got up and said, "Yes, you can show me the way." "Of course, follow closely." He turned around and began to hover away from me, so I followed. I don't know how, but he began to create hallways and staircases out of the room I was trapped in, leading me all sorts of ways as if through a giant labyrinth. We climbed up and up and up until we finally reached a hallway that had a door at the end of it. It was then he stopped moving and turned back toward me. I could make out a faint smile on his face as he pointed toward the door. "Is this the exit?" "It is." I was so happy to finally get out of this place, so I grabbed the door handle and began to turn it as he placed his hand on my shoulder. I turned to look at him, and his words made my heart race to this day. "But remember, H3MAN 4694, you should never stare." My eyes widened as his face began to morph into that terrible horned creature. His teeth became like razors and his mouth was filled with fire. I threw him off me and opened the door, only to find my worst fears behind it. Dead people were hanging from the ceiling and blood covered the room like wallpaper. I screamed, but nothing came out. I turned away from the room and ran as fast as I could back the way I came. But it was not long before I realized that I was hopelessly lost in this labyrinth that the demon had led me through. I ran and ran, but couldn't find the way out. There was no way out. I was trapped in this nightmare. I started hurling myself at the walls in an attempt to leave this evil place, but nothing was working. I thought I was going to die here, and that's when I awoke. I was drenched in sweat, my heart racing, my breath was heavy. I looked around, and it took me a couple of minutes to realize that it was just a nightmare. A horrible, horrible nightmare. I got up out of my bed and walked over to my bathroom to wash myself all of the sweat that I had just doused myself in. As I washed my face, I noticed something in the mirror. A small light coming from my room. I turned around and saw it, sitting at the foot of my bed, my personal computer. I slowly walked over to examine it, thinking I had accidentally left it on before going to bed, which I rarely do. So I bent down and picked it up. Command prompt was open, but it was blank. No prompt or anything. Just a little black box with a white cursor flashing at me. It was then that I remembered that I didn't even use my computer before going to bed. In fact, I had left it in the kitchen. My webcam light turned on. Command prompt began to type, "What's the matter? H3MAN 4694. Bad dream." Hi guys, ListenToMeSpeak here. I just want to thank you for watching. The Deep Web series will be continued on a future video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you like the video. You'll be notified of every time I post another one. Don't forget, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I like to hear your feedback. It's important to me that I make content that you enjoy. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm more active on Twitter mostly, but I'd really like you guys to follow me on Instagram. It's Listen to Me Speaking instead of just Listen to Me Speak. Have a good one.